It always begins quietly. A small joke, but it cuts deep into your dignity. A glance, held just a little too long, heavy with judgment. A smirk, subtle, but loaded with a contempt everyone senses, even if no one will name it. Sometimes, it's just a pause, a cold silence, right when you needed someone to stand with you. There's no shouting, no obvious insult, just that aching feeling, like an electric current crawling beneath your skin. You know you've just been measured. You laugh it off. You tell yourself, it's nothing. Be the bigger person. Don't react. Stay calm. But in that moment, everyone in the room is watching you, not just to see what you'll tolerate, but to decide who you are in their world. Because in every room, boundaries are being tested. Disrespect is never about words. It's about what they believe you won't do. It's not personal. It's a test, a whisper, asking, can I cross this line? And will you let me? Most people choose silence, thinking that's maturity. They believe that by not reacting, they win. But Machiavelli saw a harsher truth. Respect isn't something you receive. It's something you enforce. The person who stays quiet without power is not seen as noble, but as safe, and in a world obsessed with dominance, safe is the first step to being invisible. Here's the brutal truth. When you ignore disrespect, you quietly approve it, and the price you pay is your own value. So when every eye turns to you, when the smile cuts sharp, when your presence is tested, what will you do? Will you let others draw the lines? Or will you become the legend who rewrites the rules for everyone in the room? Have you ever let one moment of silence steal your value? Or did you draw a line? Did the room remember you? Drop your answer below. How many here are ready to be unforgettable? Disrespect rarely arrives as an explosion. More often, it slips in quietly, a shift in energy, a laugh that lingers just a second too long after your words, a forgetful glance, as if you barely exist. Most people never notice the first test, not because they're blind, but because they've been taught to ignore the smallest wounds. From childhood, you're told, don't make a scene, let it go, be agreeable, keep the peace. But in every group, at work, among friends, even at home, there is an unspoken game. Who gets interrupted? Who gets ignored? Who controls the temperature of the room? And who fades quietly into the background, pretending they're above it all while shrinking more every day? Disrespect is never just a single moment. It's an audition for the role you'll play in their story. The first test always feels small. Someone cuts you off in conversation. You let them finish. Someone jokes at your expense. You offer a polite smile. Someone dismisses your opinion. You nod, pretending it doesn't matter. But in that instant, the room watches. They are not listening to your words. They're learning from your permission. Here's the Machiavellian law. Respect is not given for being good. It's given for being clear, for having consequences. The second you accept a small disrespect, you silently mark yourself as safe to test. You think you're avoiding conflict, but you're starting a cycle. No one respects what's always available. No one values what's always agreeable. You become the easy target, the man who never pushes back, the woman who never corrects the record. And as this label settles over you, your presence begins to shrink, even if you're still in the room. But here's the brutal truth. People don't test you because they hate you. They test you because they need to know, where does your world begin and end? If you never show them, they will redraw your map for you. You may think you're keeping the peace, but you're only keeping the cycle alive. Every time you laugh at what hurts, every time you let something slide you should confront, you teach the group a lesson that your discomfort is invisible, that your absence would barely be noticed, that your voice is background noise. This is how the first test sets the rules for years to come. Let it slide once, and you may spend a lifetime trying to reclaim what you gave away in a second. But draw the line, even quietly, and you may never need to explain yourself again. The difference isn't what you say, it's what you allow. Pause for a moment. How many times have you felt the sting of a joke, but forced yourself to be the bigger person? How many meetings have you been interrupted and told yourself you don't need the spotlight? How many relationships have you suffered through, believing patience would earn you respect? Machiavelli would call this the death of presence. He knew the one who accepts the first disrespect invites the second, and the third, until finally, they become invisible in their own life. The world is watching. People learn not from your speeches, but from your posture, from your reactions, from your willingness to hold the line, even if you stand alone. So the question is simple. When that first test comes, what will you do? Will you let it slide, hoping your silence is wisdom? Or will you plant your feet, letting your presence become the line no one wants to cross? Because the boundaries you enforce in the first test become your reputation for a lifetime. If this first lesson made you realize something, hit like, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next move in this game of power. Your story could wake someone up, so drop it in the comments below. Let's build a community where boundaries are the rule, not the exception. Every group, every relationship runs on contracts that nobody signs. No one says them out loud, but they control everything. Who gets interrupted? Who gets challenged? Who's included? And who is quietly pushed aside? The contract is written in moments so small, most people never see it. You might think that ignoring the first offense makes you wise. You tell yourself, it's nothing. Don't make it awkward. Be easygoing, but every time you swallow your discomfort, every time you smile through pain, you're signing away another piece of your presence. Picture this. You're at a table with friends or colleagues. Someone throws a sharp joke your way. It stings. You force a smile. Laughter moves on. No one pauses. No one checks if you're okay. Why? Because in that moment, you taught the room exactly how to treat you. You just signed the contract. You can do this to me, and I'll stay. No one says it out loud, but it becomes the new rule. The next time, the line moves further. A sharper joke, a colder comment, a more public test. With every silent acceptance, the invisible contract grows thicker, not written with ink, but with your silence. Centuries ago, Machiavelli warned, men are quick to offend when they do not fear consequence. It's not personal, it's structural. If the price for disrespect is nothing, disrespect becomes routine. But there's another layer, one most people never see. Permission spreads. The way one person treats you becomes the lesson everyone else learns. A coworker watches you being ignored in a meeting. He thinks he's used to it. It doesn't bother him. A friend hears someone mock you. She joins in, not to hurt, but because the contract says it's allowed. It ripples out, turning one moment into a pattern, and a pattern into a social norm. And you think you're just being patient. But patience, without boundaries, is permission in disguise. Let's look at a real story. Imagine a man named Adam. He's always the agreeable one in his friend group. Never cause drama. Always says yes. One night, someone makes a cutting joke about his failures. It stings, but Adam laughs it off. He doesn't want to spoil the mood, but everyone notices. The message goes out. Adam's boundaries are soft. Next week, another friend pushes it further. Then it becomes a game. Who can tease Adam the hardest? Nobody hates him, but nobody respects him either. He's present, but his dignity is gone. The tragedy: Adam thinks he's protecting the group's peace. He's actually protecting his own role, the group's safe target. With each silent surrender, the invisible contract gets more unbreakable. But there is always a turning point. The moment Adam finally says, "That's enough," the whole dynamic shifts. The laughter dies. The room feels colder. Some friends drift away, but those who stay see Adam differently. Respect gets recalibrated, not by speeches, but by his willingness to risk comfort for self-worth. This is the Machiavellian truth. You're never rewarded for what you endure. You're rewarded for what you refuse to allow. Every tolerance is a signed agreement, a message to everyone. This is who I am. This is how you can treat me. It's never too late to rewrite the contract, but the longer you wait, the higher the price. If you never do, the cost is your identity, your role in every room for the rest of your life. Remember, permission is powerful, but so is its opposite: a single refusal. One firm line can erase years of invisibility. Did your silence ever sign a contract you never wanted? Is there one moment you wish you refused? Share below. Who else needs to see how power fades? Not all silence is the same. Some silence makes you smaller. It says, "I accept this." It lets you disappear. But there's another kind of silence. One that stops a room. One that makes everyone uneasy. A silence that demands respect, without a single word. This is the Machiavellian response. The art of turning stillness into strategy. When someone crosses the line, most people expect one of two things. They want your anger, because anger is predictable. It's easy to dismiss. They can spin it back on you. Or they want your compliance, because that's safe, forgettable. It confirms their power. But there's a third option, one that changes the rules instantly. Strategic silence. Not passive, not awkward, but cold, precise, intentional. Picture this. Someone tries to cut you down in front of others. They expect you to defend yourself, to joke it off, to play along. But you do none of that. You simply lock eyes. You don't smile. You don't react. You let the silence grow heavy. You hold the pause, longer than anyone expects. The laughter fades. The air gets colder. Everyone feels the shift. You don't say a word, but your message is deafening. This is the moment of power. Machiavelli understood: never give people your emotions. Never let them predict your next move. Emotional outbursts are the currency of the powerless. But the person who becomes unreadable, who makes others doubt, who stands calmly in the storm, is the one who takes control. Why does this work? Because unpredictability is power. When people don't know how you'll respond, they hesitate. And in hesitation, respect is born. You become a mirror. Let them see their own actions bounce back at them. Hold your posture. And when the moment is right, speak with surgical clarity. Ask a question that exposes intent. Did you mean that? Or would you like to repeat that for everyone? You're not counterattacking. You're inviting them to own their words. to make their disrespect public. Most people won't dare. Disrespect is cowardly. When forced into the open, it usually retreats. Everyone feels the tension. The room recalibrates. The power has shifted, not by volume, but by the weight of your presence. Let's look at a real case. A man is targeted by a colleague in a meeting. A sarcastic jab. He doesn't laugh. He turns, locks eyes, and asks, "Was that meant as feedback? Or just an attempt at humor?" Silence. The attacker shrinks. No fight. No drama. Just presence. But there's a deeper layer. You must be consistent. If you fall back into softness, if you laugh it off later, they'll test you again. Your silence, your questions, your distance must become your new standard. Withdraw your energy. Let your absence speak louder than any defense. Don't try to get back to normal. Reframe the relationship. Let them feel what it's like to lose your warmth, to be outside your circle. People crave belonging. Losing access is often the harshest punishment. This is the Machiavellian principle. Respect isn't demanded. It's engineered. You make your energy unpredictable. Your presence becomes rare. You become the terrain, not just another player. Long after, people don't say, "He gets angry." They say, "You never know what he's thinking." He doesn't tolerate disrespect. Your silence becomes your armor, your shield, your weapon. Have you ever used pure silence to freeze a room? Did it shift the power? Share your moment. Show what real presence looks like. A single boundary, enforced at the right time, can shift the gravity of any room. It's never just about one person. When you draw a line, you're not only teaching the offender, you're teaching everyone who witnessed that moment. Social dynamics are like a map, a shifting terrain of alliances, roles, and power. Every time you accept disrespect, your territory shrinks. Every time you hold the line, your influence grows. But here's what most people miss. You're never just talking to the one who crossed you. You're speaking to the audience. The silent majority, the people who are watching and deciding where you belong on the map. Let's imagine a real scenario. A team meeting. Mark makes a dismissive remark about your idea. It sounds like a joke. All eyes flick to you. You could laugh it off. Make a self-deprecating joke. Let the moment pass. But if you do, the contract is renewed. You are safe to disrespect. Or you could hold the silence. Let the moment breathe. Look Mark in the eye and ask, with calm precision, was that feedback? Or just an attempt at humor? No smile. No breaking eye contact. The room pauses. Mark feels the weight. So does everyone else. Now, something changes. You haven't raised your voice, but the energy is different. People wonder, maybe it's not safe to play with him like that. Mark mumbles an excuse. The meeting moves on. But from that moment, the map is redrawn. In the days that follow, others treat you with new calculation. They choose their words more carefully. They avoid crossing that line. Some might resent the discomfort. Let them. You didn't set the boundary to make people like you. You set it to make them respect you. This is how social maps are rewritten. Not with speeches, but with unforgettable moments. Let's shift to a different setting. A group of friends. One man is always the punchline. Year after year, he laughs it off. But one night, he says, quietly, without anger, "That's enough. Let's talk about something real." The conversation freezes. A boundary has been drawn. Everyone has to rethink their place on the map. Some friends pull away. Others get quiet, unsure what comes next. But one thing is clear: the safe target is gone. Stories get told and retold. He doesn't play those games. She never puts up with that. Over time, this becomes reputation, a force that works even when you're not there. Machiavelli knew public punishment, delivered with timing and restraint, doesn't just correct the offender, it educates the room. You become a standard. Your name is paired with caution, not out of fear, but out of certainty. This isn't about domination. It's about creating a climate where your boundaries are respected, so automatically they don't need to be spoken. But there's a challenge. After you enforce a boundary, you must maintain the shift. Don't return to old patterns. Don't over-explain. Don't apologize for being too serious. Let the discomfort linger. Let the map redraw itself around your new presence. Absence is a consequence. If someone crosses the line again, withdraw your warmth. Be polite. Be formal, but give them nothing extra. Let them feel what it's like to lose access. The real punishment isn't anger, it's exclusion. And as you repeat this, others notice. Your legend grows. Soon, your presence alone is enough to shift the energy of any room. Without a word, have you changed how others treat you with just one boundary? Did it cost you comfort? Or did it buy your freedom? Tell us. Who else is ready to redraw the map? Reputation is not what you say about yourself. It's what people whisper when you leave the room. It's the echo of every boundary you've enforced. Every moment you refused to be crossed. Every time you chose consequence over comfort. Most people chase respect by trying to be liked. They think popularity is protection. But Machiavelli understood. Respect is not the same as popularity. It's presence. It's the shift in the air when you walk in. It's the way people sit up. The way conversation slows. The sudden search for the right words. You know you've become the standard when people correct themselves around you. Not because you demand it, but because your reputation does it for you. You're no longer just another face in the crowd. You are the terrain. You are the rule others adapt to. And this power is built quietly, one boundary at a time. You don't need to announce your limits. You demonstrate them. You don't explain what's unacceptable. You simply remove access. You don't argue for respect. You make disrespect too expensive. Picture this. You walk into a meeting. You don't rush to fill the silence. You observe. You wait. When you finally speak, everyone listens. Not out of fear, but because they sense your words have weight. No one dares to interrupt. Even jokes land differently. You haven't threatened anyone. Your presence alone carries gravity. In your social circle, someone starts to make a joke at your expense, then pauses, thinking twice. Someone raises their voice, then softens. Not out of submission, but out of instinct. This is energetic value. Your reputation acting as your advance guard. Let's look at another real case. A woman in a corporate team was once overlooked. She begins quietly enforcing boundaries. She corrects dismissive comments with a look, withdraws from gossip, refuses to justify her choices. Within months, her name circulates. She's sharp. You don't want to cross her. Opportunities flow her way. Not because she fought for them, but because the room has recalibrated to her standard. The secret is subtraction. You subtract reactivity. You subtract neediness. You stop explaining your presence. You subtract even 1% of tolerated disrespect. Every time you do, your value grows. People slow down when you enter. They remember your words after you leave. They repeat your boundaries as unwritten rules. But there's a cost to this level of presence. You won't be liked by everyone. Some will resent the discomfort you create. Others will whisper, "She's distant. He's cold." Let them. Their unease is proof you're no longer playing by their rules. Your warmth becomes a privilege, never an expectation. You smile when you want to, not to fit in. You speak when it matters, not just to fill silence. And if someone tries to test you, the group polices itself. A look from you, a pause, is enough for others to step in. Your reputation has become your shield. This is not about domination or intimidation. It's about creating a world where your boundaries are honored by default. Because people have learned, crossing you costs more than it's worth. As your reputation grows, so does your freedom. You move through spaces without needing to defend, to prove, to beg for your place. You have become untouchable. Not because you are feared, but because you are felt. Machiavelli would call this the apex of social power. A person who needs nothing, accepts nothing less than respect, and leaves every room recalibrated in their wake. Have you seen a room change when you walk in? What did you do to become the standard? Share your experience. Does your presence shift everything? Most people believe in fairness. They want to answer disrespect in equal measure. A cold word for a cold word. A joke for a joke. An eye roll for an eye roll. But Machiavelli would laugh at such predictability. He knew, if the punishment matches the crime, it's forgettable. But if the consequence is greater, it becomes legend. This is the art of the disproportionate consequence. Not emotional outbursts, not public drama, but a reaction so final, so unexpected. It leaves a mark long after the moment ends. What does this look like? It means that when someone crosses you, especially after you've made the rules clear, you do not argue. You do not beg for respect. You do not try to fix the relationship. You simply subtract yourself. Imagine this. Someone tests your boundary in front of others. They expect you to fight, to defend, to joke it off. Instead, you grow colder. Your answers shrink to one word. Your energy moves elsewhere. You are polite, but formal, unreachable. At first, only the offender notices. But then, the whole group feels it. The atmosphere shifts. People get keener. The person who crossed you realizes they've not only lost your attention, they've lost access to your world. This isn't revenge. It isn't cruelty. It's power by absence. Because humans crave connection, they want to belong. When you take that away, when your presence is no longer available, the punishment is felt in the silence you leave behind. Let's look at a real example. A rising manager is disrespected publicly by a team member. Instead of a showdown, she stops inviting him to key meetings. She responds to emails with polite, but brief, formality. No anger, no gossip, just ice-cold clarity. Within weeks, the offender feels the chill. And so does the whole team. Everyone understands her time, her trust, her approval. All can be lost with a single violation. This is the disproportionate consequence. You don't explain it. You don't have to justify it. You let the discomfort do the talking. Machiavelli knew this was the fastest way to shift group dynamics. A public mistake deserves a public lesson, not to humiliate, but to educate, to make others think twice before testing you again. Here's the twist. When you use this principle, others begin to enforce your boundaries for you. They warn newcomers, don't try that with her. He doesn't tolerate disrespect. Your absence becomes a warning. Your distance becomes the rule. But there's a deeper psychological effect. Those who've lost your access will often try to win it back. They may apologize, try to joke with you, ask for another chance. The Machiavellian move is not to lash out, not to grant easy re-entry, but to remain unchanged. No bitterness, no grudge, just a new reality, where their status is permanently altered. This isn't about being cold for the sake of ego. It's about showing that boundaries are not negotiable, that your value is self-enforced. That disrespect costs more than anyone wants to pay. Over time, your disproportionate consequences become part of your legend. People move carefully, not out of fear, but out of certainty that your presence is earned, never assumed. The lesson is simple. You don't have to punish every offense, but when you do, make it unforgettable. Not with noise, not with anger, but with disciplined subtraction. What is the harshest consequence you ever enforced? Did your absence change the rules? Share your story. How does subtraction become legend? Sometimes, you face a different opponent, not the opportunist who backs off after the first boundary, but the disruptor, the one who keeps pushing, testing, probing, because their ego feeds on chaos. They don't want your approval. They want control. When the standard playbook fails, it's time to level up, to play social chess, not emotional war. The old you might have tried to out-argue them, to win the group, to rally support. But Machiavelli would warn, never wrestle with pigs. They drag you into the mud, and they enjoy it. So you shift the field. You stop playing the emotional game. You play the social one. Imagine this, a notorious disruptor. Let's call him Victor. Keeps mocking you in front of your team. The first time, you withdraw warmth. The second, you respond with cold silence. But Victor Escalates, he wants drama. He wants to show the group he can get under your skin. This is your moment. You do not give him the fight. Instead, you shine a spotlight on him. When Victor throws his next joke, you calmly ask, loud enough for everyone to hear, "That's an interesting comment. Do you speak to your manager that way too?" Or, if you talk to your friends like that, how do you treat your clients? You're not arguing. You're reframing. You're making Victor own his behavior in front of the group. The laughter dies. The room shifts. People exchange glances. Victor stands alone in his aggression. He wanted attention. He gets exposure. Now, the group is asking questions. Why does Victor keep pushing? What's he trying to prove? He loses his shield of group approval. Now, he's the outlier. Not you. Let's look at another real-world case. A woman in a workplace faces a chronic boundary crosser. She's tried private warnings. She's withdrawn. He keeps pushing. This time, she addresses her manager in front of the team. "I appreciate your support in keeping our work environment professional." Suddenly, the disruptor's behavior is everyone's problem, not just hers. The group recalibrates. The disruptor is isolated. His reputation is tarnished. This is escalation by exposure. You use the disruptor's hunger for drama against him. You never get personal. You never raise your voice. You simply refuse to hide the conflict. You let the social current do the work. Machiavelli would call this killing with clarity. No emotion, no spectacle. No food. Just strategic social repositioning. But there's an art to restraint. If you overplay your hand, if you become the villain, you lose the room. Your silence, your precision, must always be wrapped in professionalism, in unshakable calm. Here's the lesson. When someone refuses to respect the line, Don't just defend it. Turn the line into a spotlight. Let them become the warning. An example of what happens when boundaries are ignored. Over time, even the most persistent disruptor will face a choice: adapt or become irrelevant. You don't destroy them. You let their own behavior do the work. This is social chess at the highest level. You do not demand respect. You make disrespect so public, so costly, that the group itself enforces your boundary for you. Have you faced someone who never stopped testing you? How did you outplay them? Was it emotion? Was it strategy? Drop your chess move below. There comes a moment when your boundaries are no longer just a defense. They become your legend. You are no longer that person who doesn't tolerate disrespect. You are the standard. Everyone senses. Even when you're not there. Legacy is not built on what you survived. It's built on what you transformed, on the way you shifted rooms, rewrote dynamics, and changed what was possible for others. Every time you responded with cold precision, every time you chose distance over drama, every time you held the line, you trained the world to see you differently. Now, you no longer need to enforce your boundaries. Your reputation does it for you. Rooms slow down when you enter. Jokes change course. People measure their words, not out of fear, but out of an unconscious respect. Your presence is now a filter. Those who can't match your standards fade away. Their jokes die. Their energy disappears. They stop testing, because the price of entry is too high for the careless prices betting. But there's an even deeper transformation. You become the terrain itself, the invisible force that shapes the behavior of others. You don't have to warn. You don't explain. You don't repeat. This is the Machiavellian apex. You are not just a person. You are an environment. A presence whose silence is more powerful than another's shouts. A reputation that feels like a closing door for those who don't belong. An invitation to self-correct for anyone who enters your world. Some will call you distant. Others may resent your restraint. Misread your boundaries as coldness. But the wise will understand. Your warmth is a privilege, never a right. You choose who gets access. And those who disrespect you get only one chance. If that, let's return to a story. A man spent years as the agreeable one, the target, always laughed it off, always made peace. Then, something changed. He set boundaries. He stopped explaining. He subtracted neediness, reactivity, and the hunger for approval. A year later, old acquaintances see him. They feel it immediately. He says little, but the group talks about him long after he's gone. Not because of what he said, but because of what he refused to allow. The game has changed. And so has the man. Perhaps the most profound shift is this. You stop seeing disrespect as a personal insult. You begin to see it as information. You see who is insecure, who is seeking control, who is desperate for attention, and you respond. Not with anger, not with explanation, but with distance. You let others reveal themselves. You let your silence become the lesson, the test, the gatekeeper. And when someone finally realizes their disrespect was a mistake, they may try to return. They may apologize, offer explanations, pretend nothing happened. This is your final move, mercy without warmth. You don't punish, you don't forgive. You simply remain unchanged. You let them walk in the new reality, where your approval is gone, where your presence is no longer available, where they become a ghost, drifting through a world that no longer includes them. This is the apex of power, to be felt, to be remembered, to become the standard by which all others are measured, not through force, not through fear, But through the discipline of self-respect, your legacy is written. Not by what you accept, but by what you refuse. Not by how loudly you react, but by how completely you vanish. Not by making noise, but by making your absence echo. Has your absence ever spoken louder than words? What did you leave behind? How did it change the game? Share your transformation. Who else is ready to become a legend? You were never meant to beg for respect. You were not born to be the silent ghost in someone else's story. Your boundaries are not a burden. They are your invitation to become unforgettable. In a world obsessed with applause and acceptance, real power comes from knowing what you will not allow. The man who draws the line and stands by it teaches the world that dignity is not negotiable. The woman who withdraws her presence instead of her self-worth builds a legend that lingers in every silence she leaves behind. Remember this: people may forget what you gave. They may not recall every kindness, every time you stayed, every wound you overlooked, but they will never forget what you refused. They will never forget the day you enforced your boundary and changed the rules forever. You don't need to fight for your place. You don't need to shout, argue, or defend. You only need to act as if disrespect could never survive in your presence. You don't varn. You don't repeat yourself. You let your actions, your withdrawal, your silence become the memory that others carry long after you've left the room. Machiavelli never taught men to demand respect. He taught them to become the standard, to make disrespect too expensive, to leave a mark that cannot be erased by noise or flattery. So, if someone disrespects you, don't explain, don't defend, change the atmosphere. Let your presence become the new rule. And if they still don't learn, don't argue, disappear. Let your absence teach what your words never could. If this message woke something up inside you, subscribe to the channel. Share this video with someone who needs to remember their worth. And drop your story in the comments below. Because your legacy isn't just about the boundaries you set, but about the courage you inspire in others. Who will you become when silence is no longer submission, but your greatest weapon?